just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. This has been a lifelong dream of mine. I said it was always one of those things on my bucket list that I wanted to do. So I'm really, really happy that I was able to do it. This audience is very purposeful. You don't see doctors, you don't see CEOs, you don't see corporate people. These are family, friends, and my other family from Girard, who really have helped me to get to where I am tonight. So again, thank you guys for being here. I'm going to start off by reading a passage from the book, which is really, really important, because everybody asks, why is it called Purple Blood? Is this a horror book? Is it about vampires? No. The reason it's called Purple Blood is this. The United States is often viewed through the lens of red and blue areas. Red areas generally considered to be more rural, and blue areas considered to be more urban. This, of course, is a very simplistic view of the U.S. The country is much more nuanced, with a mixture of blue and red, creating huge swaths of purple. Another way of thinking of this is through a slightly clinical lens, which is that blood is generally a deep red color. The shading of red changes depending on the oxygenation of blood. The shading can sometimes appear purple, as opposed to the often repeated myth that deoxygenated blood is blue. Instead of thinking of these areas as separate entities, how do we ensure that we are employing the same approaches to healthcare improvement to all areas of the U.S.? Not a plan for blue or red blood, but creating a blueprint for purple blood. I think we have our first question.
Hey, good evening. My name is Kenneth McDuffie. So the first question is, in chapter 1, you talk about family, right? Tell me about growing up in Philadelphia. What are your best memories? And tell us about your parents and how they influenced you.
Great question. As I said, this audience is purposeful, so it includes all of those people that influenced me during my life. I'll start with Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. I always tell people I love Philadelphia for what it is and for what it's not. I love the grittiness. I love the history of Philadelphia. My kids, to their chagrin, will know that I love historical features. The people who went to my wedding know I purposely put it in front of Independence Hall. So I love seeing that mix of the grittiness, but also the place where this country started. And I start my book actually talking about the Declaration of Independence, because how ironic it is that I was born in 1976, 200 years after that. Knowing what we know now about the Declaration of Independence and thinking about all men are created equal, but we know that wasn't the case back then. And to think I had this trajectory from 1976, when the world was very different, to end up where I am today. So that was very important to me. I talk a lot about my parents. My parents were not the typical parents you would expect to have created a doctor, right? So I talk about my mom in the book. My mom was what we refer to as a hustler. She did everything and anything she could to make sure we had a roof over our head and we had food to eat. And it may not have been a typical thing to do. It may not have been something that other people thought, oh my God, that's amazing. But she did what she thought was necessary. And she had street smarts. So while she didn't go to college, she understood numbers. She could rattle those things off in her head. She knew exactly what she needed to do in order to meet that bill. She knew what she had to do in order to make money, in order for us to live and survive. So that was an important piece of who I am, that I was going to do what I needed to do legally to survive in this world. I also talk about my father. My father is really, really important. When I talk about him in the book, I talk about my dad as somebody who, in another lifetime, born in another neighborhood, maybe in another generation, he would have been a CEO. He would have been a college professor, because he was really, really smart, analytical, smart, a great thinker, but he was just put in a time and place where he couldn't have that opportunity. But I realized as I was growing up, and I would look at him and I said, I'm him. I wasn't my mom, because she was social butterfly. She was, everyone knew her in the neighborhood. My dad, he was somebody who was very quiet. He could have a temper when he wanted to, but generally he was quiet, and he was also very cerebral. He was a thinker, and so I always looked at him and thought he was amazing. But one of the most amazing parts of my life, I think, is although there were some shortcomings, I think, with my parents, I had lots of people in my life who filled the gap. So one of the people who filled the gap was my Aunt Cheryl. My Aunt Cheryl was like a second mother to me. She took me in when I was a little kid, she saw that I was different. She saw that I loved to play Monopoly when I was 4 years old. What kid loves to play Monopoly when they're 4 years old? She treated me like a little adult. She was very important in terms of looking at life, looking at books, and I always think of her because, again, she saw something in me that I didn't see at that time, and that was really important.
Tell me about attending Girard College.
I talk a lot about Girard College, and I talk about my mom's decision to put me into Girard College, which was an amazing decision that changed my life. So whether or not she was thinking of sort of long-term, 10 years, this is what my son is going to do, she, again, saw something and said, I'm going to make that sacrifice and I'm going to put my kid in a school, a boarding school, that I think is going to give him the opportunity to do things that I'm not able to do. And that school was amazing. Like literally, anytime I get to talk about Girard College, I talk about Girard College because it changed who I am. It changed what I thought I could be, changed my whole way of thinking about life and what I could aspire to do. The story that's not in the book is I went to Girard College in September of 1984. By October of 1984, I was very close to being thrown out of the school because it was a strange transition. I was 7 years old when I went to Girard College. My first report card, I received all A's, and that changed everything. The positive reinforcement changed my whole attitude, changed my whole behavior, and now I went from an average student in an underserved public school in Philadelphia to a student who excelled just by changing my attitude. It was academically rigorous, but the best part about Girard really was that it also made you into a good citizen. There were things about Girard where we had table manners and etiquette and all of these different aspects of life that you don't even think about. My children hate this, but I literally tell them how to pass the salt and pepper. I tell them how to use a fork and a knife because of what I learned at Girard College. And again, I think the other piece of Girard was really giving me aspirations, make me think bigger. Being a Girardian, I didn't think, oh, you know what? And not that there's anything wrong with any of these professions. They are very important professions. But I didn't think I could do something that was a lower level profession. Girard made me think you have to shoot for the stars. You're doing really well in the school. You're one of the top students. You have to do really, really well. And I think that was important. The other big thing that people don't talk about a lot is that actually Girard gives you lots of support. So Girard gave me lots of support for college and for medical school. So I came out of those places with very few loans. My education cost $500,000. And I paid very little of that because of the support that I was able to get from Girard. And that relationship continues to this day.